Well, good evening and I say good evening because I'm in the UK. So for those 11 o'clock in the morning, Carol from Vancouver, Chris, 1 p.m. or just, 10 past, quarter past 1, and Mark, I can't remember. All these different time zones. Welcome anyway, whether it's morning, evening, afternoon. So I'm Carol Edmondson, and I host these events on behalf of KaushalyaUK, which I love. And for those who are not familiar with KaushalyaUK, it's a registered not-for-profit community organisation which has been working tirelessly to uplift women, but also inviting men to contribute, hence our Men Are From Mars evening tonight. The founder, who we have with us, is Ritu Sharma, who has dedicated, and I mean dedicated, her life to bringing women of this world to find their own power and true worth. And she has a story, an amazing story, which brought her onto this journey. The main aim of the organization is to empower, connect communities, raise awareness of issues that affect women, and also not just to support those who are in dire need, but also to support women who are on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through their personal, professional, and financial growth. Projects include education, personal and professional growth, health and well-being, financial education and entrepreneurship, as well as social events. And before I hand over to Ritu to say a few words, I would just like to say a few words about her myself. She is an amazingly passionate woman who cares deeply for people, not just women, but for men. And something that isn't often talked about is that last year, and we're hoping, or Ritu's hoping to get funding to run this again this year, a DV first aid course was run. I think it was an 8-week course for both male and females, so they would be able to recognize people in the community. And that just goes to show the heart of what is behind the woman you see sitting there, who I'm about to hand over to. She's also an expert public speaker. She is a best-selling published author. She's also an actor and an entrepreneur and a women empowerment ambassador. So, need I say more, Ritu? Over to you. You're on mute, my darling.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carol. That's very, very sweet kind of you to say what you've said. So we've had men as a part of our journeys, of course, all women have them. And although sometimes it is the case, without prejudice, if you just put it like that, that in some women's life, it is the men who bring in the negativity and leave them broken. However, it is still men who would help them to build them up, men and women, who would help to build them up and find their light back on. And we cannot take that credit off them. We should not take anybody's credit off them, be it men or women. Although KaushalyaUK is totally dedicated to empowering women, as very rightly said by Carol, however, we recognize at KaushalyaUK that men have a major contribution to make towards empowering women. And because they are so much a part and parcel of our lives, there is no need or reason to keep them away. Carol and I came across a really interesting episode when one of our speakers in the past actually got really worried when we invited him to come and speak at Men Are From Mars. So he had his one-on-one with Carol. And when Carol explained who we are and what we stand for, he got a bit taken aback, thinking that, oh, am I going to be targeted because it's a women's organization? And we had to really assure him that this is not the case. We don't target anyone. And this platform especially has been created after very thoughtful process where Carol and I have had long deep conversations around how it should be portrayed, how it should be planned, what slots should be in, etc., etc. And I think it took us a few months to get to a conclusion that we don't need to do anything extra, but just represent it as we put out our women empowerment event, which is all for women. And of course, there is a place for all women events, but I understand that some male colleagues of ours who are coaches, community leaders, who are speakers, they get a bit taken aback that why is it that we are not allowed to speak in women's organizations. So therefore, this is our statement. Yes, we are women empowering organization, but we are not anti-men organization in any sense of form. We love men to be around, we want them to be around, and we want them to contribute to empowering women and men, of course, because when it comes to mental health and empowerment and personal development and spiritual growth, there is no discrimination. So I want to welcome all of you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you that you chose to spend this evening with us. I know it's going to be incredible. It always is, and our speakers are absolutely outstanding. Very, very warm welcome to each one of you. And Carol, thank you so much. Oh, back to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ritu. So now, sorry, things keep popping up on my screen. I'd like to welcome you to our very first speaker for the evening. And put very simply, Zina Kula is a mumpreneur, mentor, and coach. What more can I say? You're going to have to say more, actually, Zina. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Carol. I'm going to take the opportunity to share my screen, actually. Could you all just give me a thumbs up when you can see it? Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Zina Kula. I am a mumpreneur, mentor and coach. And just like Carol said, I'll explain what that means in just a second. First of all, I feel honoured to share this platform with such powerful speakers tonight, and on a platform that I love and which aligns with every part of my giving personality, I would say. So thanks to Ritu, KaushalyaUK as a whole, and Carol, obviously, for this opportunity and creating and running such wonderful events on an amazing platform to be able to open up my world and show you a piece of who I am in order to connect with you, in order to inspire you and inspire others. So who am I? I am a mumpreneur, mentor and coach. I'm also a wife. I'm a mum of two. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. I'm a published international best-selling co-author of the book Women of Influence. I'm a public speaker. I am also a professional Bhangra dancer, which I've been doing for over 10 years. I coordinate online workshops for KaushalyaUK as well, and I coordinate various networking meetings within the Midlands hub here in the UK for an association called EL Association. So I do a couple of things voluntarily as well. But life didn't always look like this for me. My journey started very differently. In fact, my background, I'm a maths graduate. And nobody guesses that from what I'm doing right now, funnily enough. I was an outstanding, according to Ofsted, secondary school maths teacher. I was very quickly promoted to mid-management. But in 2014, my world changed drastically. I thought I was in my dream job, and I truly felt like this is it for me. But my mum was diagnosed with cancer in 2014, and it was at a very late stage. My world just started changing in all ways possible. So I made a very grave decision to leave the teaching profession. It was all I ever wanted to do growing up, going through university, and I decided to leave because I truly just believed that I needed to be there for my mum, and teaching was always going to be there and I could always go back to it. Maybe there was a chance I couldn't always go back to my mum. So on this journey, I went through a huge change in terms of health. So I went on a massive health journey with my mum. Because she was diagnosed at such a late stage for cancer, she had to really dig deep to learn so much more about herself, about her health. And she refused to just take the medical route and also wanted to help herself alongside that. And through that journey, I learned so much, not only about helping mum and about health in general, but about myself. I reflected a lot on what I was doing as a teacher. I was in such a demanding role. I chose to work at schools where the children weren't from the greatest background, and it demanded more hours of me. And for that reason, there would be some days where I would go just drinking 12 cups of coffee, and that would be it. So as you can imagine, every holiday, every half term, every sort of summer holiday, etc., I was always burnt out. And I came to a realization during my mum's journey that I really wasn't looking after myself. So there was a big journey I went on with health. I also had to look at my mindset, something I'd never really done before. And I also came across various business opportunities because I left teaching and I truly didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a change of career. I mean, I had a maths degree, so I knew I had an abundance of choices, but that doesn't always serve you when you don't really know what direction you want to go in. And so it was great to be in a position to have choices and to be able to have options. I ended up falling into the business development roles within the corporate world. But with that, I was kind of still looking for something. Something just wasn't right. So there were different business opportunities that came my way. And I had a look, and as you can imagine, as a teacher, I was working 12, 13 hours a day and taking work home at the weekends. I went from that to a 9 to 5. And all of a sudden I had all this time on my hands, and I was like, well, what do I do with myself now? So I went on, I came across a network marketing opportunity. I looked at it, took it up, and actually what stayed with me from that network marketing journey that I had prior to starting my coaching career is the personal development side of things. And it had such a massive impact on me as a person. And I actually truly believe it pulled me through some of the darkest days and in that journey that I went on with my mum. So whilst my mum was battling cancer, I actually, I was already engaged. I decided to get married. I wasn't sure how long my mum had left. She was getting diagnoses from doctors that were very short spaces of time. And so we decided to get married. And we just wanted my mum to be there. And I moved in with my in-laws, and I suffered a lot of mental abuse. There was a lot of cultural expectations. There was a lot of trying to diminish who I was. Unfortunately, it does still exist in today's world. There was a lot of control, and there was a lot of wanting to just shrink me and put me in a box. And if anybody knows me, I certainly was not going to fit into any box ever. To be honest, if anyone tries to shrink me into a box, I run the other way. I'm like, forget it. I'll burst out the box. So it just wasn't going to work. So it did really knock me. It knocked my confidence. I didn't ever think that in this time and in this day and age, that type of mental abuse actually existed to such a scale. And it was hard. We made a decision to move out. And then in 2017, my world changed forever. My mum, unfortunately, did lose her battle to cancer. The same week as I lost my mum, I had a miscarriage, and I just suffered a lot of loss that year. I lost a place to live, because when we made the decision to move out, my in-laws kicked us out because they said, well, if you're going to move out, then we don't want you here, you can leave tomorrow. So it was just felt like a really lose-lose situation that year. And I just felt like I was losing everything. But I truly believe that my faith brought me through. I believe in divine timing. The fact that we were sort of kicked out the house because we made a decision for ourselves to move out and create a space of our own it gave me the opportunity to be able to live with my mum for the last 11 months of her life. That was pretty beautiful. I believe in divine timing for those reasons. And this life was meant for me. The timing of everything is perfect. And when we're in the moment and going through these motions, we don't normally feel like it's meant for us. We start thinking, why is this happening to me? And I certainly did. I started saying, why has this happened to me? What have I done to deserve this? And it wasn't until I changed that for myself and changed my perspective, I then started to make positive changes in my life. And my circumstances changed as well. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? I started asking myself, why is this happening for me? I knew there was a higher purpose. I knew there was a higher purpose for me in life. I just knew it. I could feel it in my bones. I could feel it in every cell of me. There was something more there. I needed to give more. I just didn't know where or how, or had all these skills. I didn't know what to do with them. And then I always thought there's more to me. There's more to life than a career that others expected me to be in. There's more to me than a life of a 9-to-5 job and working to enjoy life after retirement. I mean, to be honest, the examples of why not to settle for less were given to me. They were given to me on a plate. My mom spent her life working so hard, meeting other people's expectations, trying to fit into a box that other people had created for her, with the dreams of enjoying life with my dad once she retired. And she never lived. She never lived to that age of being able to be retired and enjoy her life. She passed away at the age of 49. And she was young. It was a month before she was about to turn 50. And it was the biggest wake-up call for me. So that gut feeling of being here on earth for more, to give more, to serve more, to really enjoy life as well, that's what led me to keep searching for ways of making all those things possible. And it's led me to where I am here today. I truly believe that we are here today because of the result of all the choices we've made in life and everything that's happened for us. So I am the mum who wants it all, and I'm making it happen without compromising on anything, because I wasn't willing to compromise on anything that I truly want. And that's what I want for others too. So I am a mompreneur, mentor and coach. So what I do in a nutshell is I help mums to reignite their passion for their ambitions and show up authentically and unapologetically to evolve their businesses online. So as a busy, multi-passionate mum myself, I understand the challenges and self-doubt that mums battle through. My goal is to empower mums to recognise and draw on their strengths in order to create and leverage their business ideas, and in turn, just live their best life. What led me to this, though? Of course, you've heard snippets of my journey from before, but motherhood changed my life forever, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Unfortunately, my mum didn't live to see any of my children or meet them, but becoming a mother without a mother was, I would say, the biggest mountain I've ever climbed. In the most beautifully chaotic way. I don't know how else to put it. But it really did change me. And it ignited this flame in me so bright that others who tried to dim it before were so blinded by it that they just couldn't come near me. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen overnight. I learned to navigate the world of motherhood and all the guts and glory that it came with. And my body had changed drastically. Nobody and nothing can prepare you for the changes that your body goes through after giving birth to a child. And I certainly wasn't prepared for it. My mindset, my goals, and what I stood for changed. It was the instant that I gave birth, everything just changed. Because the most important thing in my life at that moment was this little being that I was now totally responsible for. My life became busy, and sometimes that busy just looked like me sitting on the sofa till my husband came home because my baby needed cluster feeding or was having a meltdown and I just didn't know what to do. And sometimes going out for a walk to the park was the biggest struggle I would face. But I still had ambitions. I still wanted more. And Who on earth did I think I was? Hey, who on earth did I think I was to keep wanting more? I had all these qualifications, I had these skills, I had years of experience in the corporate world, in the teaching world, and experience from a degree, and all I wanted to do is raise my children the best I could. So to the world, I should have just been that mum at home. And I feel like at times, especially in our culture, in the South Asian culture, there's a cultural conditioning which suggests letting the man be the breadwinner and mums take a break from working whilst raising children. And I knew this just wasn't the life for me. I'm just not created that way. It's just not me. So the journey to entrepreneurship started with acceptance for all that I had now become. Forgiveness for grieving the woman I used to be before children. For the hard times I gave myself mentally and physically for truly not feeling like I was good enough. The gratitude for the opportunity to become a mother first and foremost, and also for the new role that came with that. And gratitude for the woman I was and who I was yet to become. The attitude as well, the attitude and the growth in the attitude towards life. It was about growing, for me, it was about growing the confidence by working on myself from the inside out, becoming certain in who I am today and instilling that belief of what power I had at my fingertips in order to build a dream life for my growing family. And also trust, trusting that pursuing my dreams actually would inspire my children. And in turn, it would make me a better mum, a happy, fulfilled, and present mum. Now, how do I actually help ambitious mums? Well, I help ambitious mums in three main ways. First of all, I create a whole load of free content. Time management is one of my key things. You saw the whole long list of things I do. That's probably only part of what I do. I'm sure I could add to that list greatly. Time management. I've had to become very efficient, organised, yet flexible. And so I help other mums do the same as well in order to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. Currently I will be running, next month, a 3-day free course on My Purpose Project. And basically all that is to help other ambitious mums to really find their way, to find what is meant for them, to find what they want to do, and I help them discover that. Firm foundation, so I help them build up businesses from scratch and also realign any existing businesses to work around your family, because I truly believe that work should fit around your lifestyle and not the other way around. And I also do one-to-one strategy calls and coaching. So I'm a qualified NLP, timeline therapy and hypnotherapy practitioner, a master practitioner in all three. And what underpins everything that I do is I coach and mentor on implementing authenticity, integrity, and fearlessness, not only to your business, but to your life. So I'm a firm believer that if you practice something in one area of your life, you're likely going to repeat that pattern in multiple areas of your life. Therefore, it's in your best interest to focus on how you can make small changes and small improvements every day that will contribute to your overall character, personally and professionally. Whatever you practice, you'll become very good at. How you can help me? So I have a really amazing goal this year. One of my goals is to be able to hit 40 speaking events, because I really want to give back. One thing that I've truly missed, and you guys will probably agree, over lockdown, I really struggled to get out there and speak. I'm an avid networker. I love connecting with people. I love speaking. And as you could probably tell from today, I could speak for forever. Sometimes you got to keep me on track and be like, hey, it's time, stop. So yeah, 40 is the goal, to really give back, to really give inspiration, motivation, whatever it is that people need. I really want to help. So yeah, podcasts, Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives, masterclasses, workshops, in-person events I love too. My capacity is limited because of my two beautiful little children. But yeah, it's growing as they grow as well. I have completed 11 of those 40 speaking events that I set a goal for myself for, this one being the 11th. By the end of this month, I will have hit 15. So we're getting there. But if any of you guys would like an expert speaker on a session, or you know of a platform, please do refer me to it, point me in the direction, because I'm here and I'm willing to give. And the intention of speaking at these events is really to give back, inspire moms, ambitious women to pursue their dreams and trust that they have the power to just go for it. But also, a lot of what I talk about is relative to so many people, because as I've been speaking today, I'm seeing so many of you nodding, and I can definitely hand on heart say there are some people on this webinar that are definitely not mums. So yeah, you know, it is relative. What I talk about is business strategy, business development, mindset. It's all very relative. So I'm adaptable. Also, part of the same mission is I do a Mompreneur of the Month on my Instagram page as well, which I'm always looking for ambitious moms to come and speak on that as well. But yeah, I really want to spread the message of, you know what, feel the fear and pursue that dream anyway. Just do it. And I can guarantee you'll thank yourself for it in the years to come. Because I'm yet to come across somebody who's pursued their dreams and really regretted it. Right? So how to connect with me? I will try and put these in the chat later as well. So Instagram is where I normally live. That's normally my go-to. I am also on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn, but please don't judge me for my LinkedIn profile because it's not the greatest. One thing at a time. But yeah, I am on there. You'll probably just get a slow response on LinkedIn, to be honest. And yeah, I have a website, but like I said, I'll pop these in the chat. That is me, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about me and what I do on here.
Oh, Zena, some of that was so emotional, but you are an amazing light. You really are.
Thank you so much, Carol.
Seriously. Incredible journey. What can one woman do, eh?
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to save all the Q&A till all the speakers have spoken, and then I'll open up the floor where you can ask your questions of any or all of the speakers. So moving right along, and thank you again, Zena. Absolutely beautiful. It gives me pleasure to introduce you to our next speaker, Mark Terrell. Mark is the author of Motivated. Well, you can see the copies of them behind him. The Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business That Sets You Free, and creator of the Motivated Business Club. After 30 years of running, building, and selling, or now helps business owners get the measure, and that's an acronym, which I'm sure you're going to tell us what it stands for, of their business using his 7-step process. So, Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Carol. Firstly, can I ask you put me on speaker view or pin me, because I'm going to be sharing stuff within my screen. I'm not going to share the screen, and so it's just easier for me to use the tech that I've got here. So yes, thank you for that intro. I'm really thrilled to be here today. And as already been said, I had a business that I sold, and once I sold that business, I had the opportunity to do something different. But before I did that thing, I had time to reflect on what happened in that 30 years of running, growing, and selling that retail business that I joined straight from school. And what I thought about was how my motivation dipped from being very high sometimes and then being lower other times. And the reason why it was sort of fresh in my mind was that towards the end of running that business and before I sold it, my motivation for it had dipped quite considerably. And really, I realized that I'd made a few errors, which I'm going to share with you. But and I'm going to talk a lot about motivation. And motivation is what I call the energy that we need to perform our best. Sometimes it's misunderstood. And so hopefully after today, you might understand motivation maybe in a different way that's more helpful in many ways, hopefully. So I'm going to share a screen. I'm going to talk about making the invisible visible. And the reason being that I didn't really know what motivated me. And when you don't know about something and it's not really visible, it's quite difficult to deal with. So if we can make something more visible, we can actually then do something about it to improve it. I talk a lot about falling into the swamp. And when you get stuck in a swamp, you get stuck and you can't really get out of it because you just keep sinking into it because you've just found your way into there somehow. It's not somewhere where you headed to, but it's once you're in there, it's quite difficult to get out without some help. Luckily, I was able to get some help at the right time. So energy is the thing, the key. I've mentioned it already. And there is a lot of changes going on, I'm sure you noticed, with regards to the energy, how we generate energy. We've got obviously solar energy is a key, and obviously wind energy is also important. So energy is being generated in a different way. So I want you to start thinking about where you get your energy from. Where do you get energy from? What gets you out of bed in the morning that gives you energy? And conversely, what actually doesn't, and what actually saps your energy, particularly when you're at work. And what I want you to think about is what gives you fire, what keeps your fire burning, and also what douses that fire and puts it out and makes it feel as if you just had a bucket of ice water just stuck on your, dumped on your head. So I want you to think about the three things, or I'm going to actually talk about the three things that we need to really perform well at work. The first thing we've got to do is we've got to set a direction. Once we set that direction, we've got to then make sure that we have the skills that we need to be able to go on that set direction. The third element we need, not surprisingly, is motivation. And that these three things are equally important, and we need to think about all of them. And I would suggest most people think about direction and skills, but don't think about motivation. I certainly didn't when I was running my retail business. It wasn't something that even crossed my mind, to be honest. But it's not, now it's front of mind, and every decision I make is in line with what motivates me. And that's also obviously what I help my clients with. So these three things sort of interact with one another. So as I've said, it's not one thing's more important than the other. We need to make sure that we pay attention to all these things, but each one influences the other. So what motivates us will influence the direction we set. And obviously the skills we have will obviously influence the direction we're heading as well. So these are all interacting with one another. So it's not one thing more important than the other. It's about making sure that we're paying equal attention to all three things. But what I'm really actually talking about here, whether you've picked it up or not, is these three things. It's our what, it's our how, and our why. Now, I'm sure many of you have read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And it's a great book, and I totally agree with it. And maybe the why should be at the top as the thing that we start with, particularly as we are, most of us are entrepreneurs running our own businesses. We've got to think about why are we doing what we do? So this is why, this is how the three elements fit together. And we've got to think about all three elements as I explained with the direction, skills, and motivation. The interesting thing, though, is that the what and the how, they are visible. We can tend to see what people do, and we can also see how they do it. But we can't really see why people do what they do. And that's why it's so important to be in touch with it, and also realize that by sharing that with our team, our clients, it adds to the value that we bring to them if they can understand why we do what we do. So first, I think we should just stop and just think about what motivation is, because I did explain at the beginning, some people get a bit confused about what motivation is. Motivation is, firstly, it's made up of two words. The first word being motive, which is equal to our reason, and action is the second word, which is what we do because of that reason. So motivation is our reason to do something. And when we think about that in the context of a motivational speaker, it's questionable whether actually someone can motivate us. The only way they can really motivate us is understanding what it is that motivates us. So it's sort of like a different way around with regards to going to hear someone speak to be motivated. Actually, what we should be thinking about, well, what motivates me? And let's go and find how that can be fulfilled. So we need to be able to identify why we go to work. And these are the I'm going to share with you now 9 reasons we go to work according to the motivational maps and model that I use. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into all 9 of these motivators. All I'm going to say about them is that we're all a combination of all 9. But what we've got to do is actually find out which ones are most important and which ones are least important, find out and give them a value, and then make sure that those things that are most important to us, we're spending time doing, and the things that aren't so important, try to avoid spending too much time doing those things. This is what I mean by having those motivators in order. We have here an example of a motivational map with someone who is highly focused on the searcher motivator, which is making a difference, which is one of my top 3. So this person is very focused on doing something meaningful, worthwhile. What they feel is obviously meaningful and worthwhile. Obviously, that can be quite personal. They're also motivated by being creative, so new ideas. And innovations are motivational for them. And they're also motivated by the friend, which is the belonging motivator, which means that they want to feel that they belong, they come to work, and they work with people that they like and feel connected to. What they don't particularly want on the bottom right-hand corner, it says the defender. What they don't like is things to be stable and secure and predictable. So this is someone, if you think about the searcher and creator, that's all about change. And the thing that they least want is things to stay stable. So when we think about the most important and the least important, what we've got to do is make sure, as I said, make sure that we are fulfilling those top 3 motivators and making sure that we're not spending too much time in doing things that are linked to the lowest motivator. But there's a big but here. Sometimes our lowest motivator can be our Achilles heel. My Achilles heel is the director motivator. I don't really want to be responsible or in charge of people and resources, but I know that I have to do that because otherwise I'll never really sort of get to where I need to go. So, and in this case, this person is actually trying to make a business work for him. And one of the things that he realizes he's not been doing is actually making things predictable so that things can actually work without him. So he's working to make sure that his business now is set up with some systems so it works without him. And there's a process that people can follow as opposed to being reliant on him being there all the time. So sometimes our lowest motivator can be our Achilles heel. So a quick mention of my book. It's already been mentioned. And before I think I've got a few minutes left, I just want to tell you a couple of stories about some clients I helped recently. And astonishingly, they both told me afterwards that I actually helped to save their business. The first person was looking for a job. And she was getting really demotivated by a business. She wasn't really feeling it. She was having trouble getting out of bed in the morning to do what she was doing. And so I happened to meet her at a networking event, and she took up my offer to complete a motivation map. And what it told her was the number one motivator was freedom. And so getting a job would have been probably the worst thing she could have done. But what she realized was she had high friend, which I've mentioned already. The friend is about belonging. And because she wasn't really feeling it, it was the problem was that she'd attracted the wrong type of client to her business, and she was serving too many clients that she didn't really have connection to. So she quickly put that right. She thought of a strategy, and the best strategy to make people move on is to put your prices up. And that was very successful. That those people that were causing the most aggravation and not feeling connected to were the ones that paid her least. So that solved the problem. And now our business is growing about 30% last year, she told me. And she's working with clients that she likes working with, and she's working less hours. The other one was a similar situation where actually this person was thinking about closing their business down because it was causing them too much aggravation. Wasn't motivating them. And their motivation map indicated, again, freedom was important. But actually, one of the things that they wanted to be was a specialist in what they do. So they weren't that, they were a generalist. And consequently, they were having to pitch to get work. And because that was competitive work, they were finding that they were having to cut their margins, and work was becoming less and less lucrative, and having to work more and more hours. And he was working more and more hours at the weekend. Consequently, his top motivator of freedom was not being met because he was having no free time at all. So he switched his business to specialist services. He got trained in new areas, which were in line with what he was doing before, similar sort of things, but more specialist. And now he's charging more, working less, got his weekends back, and is focused on the things that really are going to fulfill himself, firstly, in his work. And when those things are happening, then the rest of it sort of falls into place. And his business has doubled almost in sales in the last 12 months. And he told me recently that he'd already, so far through the years, he'd already done the same turnover as he did the whole of last year. So he's very happy from a business that was going to shut down to one that's thriving. So obviously that's, for me, being a high searcher, making a difference, it fills my heart with, obviously, that makes me feel good and motivates me. So that's my little talk. Just bear in mind, motivation's key. It's the reason we do things. Be in touch with those things. And as I mentioned, if you want to read more about what motivation is all about, then you'll see my books behind me as well. So if you're interested in that, get in touch, and I'll pop a book in the post to you if you're in the UK. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. And do put links in the chat. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. I love the victory stories of the two examples that you've shared. Definitely bringing your worth and sharing your expertise with others. This is what it's all about.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So again, it gives me great pleasure. And if you've just joined us, please hold your questions till the end, till our next two speakers have spoken. And right now, I'd like to introduce you to Chris Tice. As one in whom Christ dwells, an experienced firefighter, now retired, Chris Tice is a compassionate coach, trainer, and inspirational speaker whose call in life is to help people. Chris incorporates education, experience, research, and training into practices that will further the goals of his clients into brighter, more productive futures. Through active listening and assertive conversation, Chris will, utilizing fair and honest feedback, assist in creating developmental targets that create open forums for conversation and accountability. Chris believes that we are all created unique, 100% agree, and that each and every one of us brings value and talent to every organization as a recognition of the gifts God gives us. Now I'm going to repeat that again, Chris, that last bit. We are all created unique, and that each and every one of us brings value and talent to every organization and relationship as a recognition of the gifts God gives us, our Elohim. Okay, Chris, over to you.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Carol and Ritu for putting on this amazing event and for allowing me to share with the audience. And Mark and Zena, wow, amazing. I'm actually, Zena, you talked about trust, and I'm going to be bringing up that too. And Mark, wow, you talked about, stoking the fire and motivation. And of course, yes, that speaks to me as being a former firefighter, which, yes, of course, my job was to put the fire out. But I'm going to go a little bit different here. When we're truly motivated and we're inspired and we get to the spirit of the things that we're called to do and the things that God has made us for, we stoke that fire, right? We stoke it. Now, there are fires in our lives we have to put out. Okay. There are times we have to do that. And that's happened a few times in my life. And I wore this shirt today because, one, it's true. And two, because it reminds me of how much Jesus has changed my life and the things that he has brought me through. And the reason why I bring that up is because I talked to, as Carol mentioned in that introduction, is the unique abilities that we have. I speak to leaders in the definition of a niche, but what I really speak to is the leader that's inside you, the leader that's inside all of us. It's life and leadership in life. So please know, as I talk about leadership today, it's not just about rank, title, and position. It's not just about organizational development, which I do love talking about. But I have to say, it's not just about that. You don't have to be a manager or an executive vice president or a CEO to be a leader. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those positions. I hold a few of those. But to make this world a better place, everyone can be a leader. Doesn't always mean they should be, depending on where they're leading from. Is it from a place of positivity and a positive mindset? Or is it a place of negativity and a negative mindset? Are they speaking from a motivational point of view, such as what Mark just so wonderfully spoke about? When we speak positively to those around us and those in our lives and the things that we do, we recognize how much better off our lives can be, as well as the lives around us. A case in point, when I was in Boy Scouts, I remember sitting at the table early in the morning. I had a scoutmaster. Now, yes, he was the scoutmaster. He had that title. He was also a business leader, a business owner. He was also a father. He had a lot of titles as what would be classically defined as a leader. But in this moment, he just took time out to be a friend. Now, I had a lot of things going on in my life. At the time, I held a leadership position. I was the senior patrol leader of our Boy Scout troop, which had me holding the highest title, in our group, in our organization. But I wasn't feeling it. I lacked a lot of trust in myself. I lacked a lot of trust in people around me. And I couldn't quite figure it out. And this scoutmaster and I, we were usually the two first ones to wake up. And we're sitting there drinking coffee. And as the sun's coming up, he says, "Chris, what do you want to be in life? Now, keep in mind, for the longest time, and yes, it did come true, I did want to be a firefighter, but I didn't in this moment. He said, Chris, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, John, I don't know. He goes, why not? Now, this wasn't one of those speeches of, hey, you're in high school, you got to have it all figured out in life, which I'm not a big fan of doing that to kids. Like, hey, let's discover where we're supposed to be and where we can be and where we ought to be, what we're called to do. And John just said, why not? And I said, you know what, John, honestly, I'm really not going to amount to anything, so it doesn't really matter to me. Now, he knew that there were some leaders in my life that had actually conditioned me to that. Motivation, gone down. Inspiration, gone down. I didn't care. I didn't recognize a calling or a purpose or how I could lead my own life, even though I was to be leading other people. And John looked at me, he goes, what'd you just say to me? And I said, John, I said, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to amount to anything in life anyways. I mean, can't is always going to be a part of my vocabulary. And John looks at me. He says, don't you ever let anybody tell you that. God has a plan and purpose for your life. Don't you ever let anyone tell you you can't do something. Chris, I have seen the leader in you. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself, as well as how you're leading the rest of this troop and how you lead from here on out in your life. Now, little did I know that during that time, that was actually setting the stage for later on in life. Being a leader, having rank, title, and position beyond being a Boy Scout. I became a manager, as a general manager early on in life in Pizza Hut. I became a sales leader in another company. And then I went on to become a firefighter. My dream. See, I blocked the can'ts that I wouldn't be good enough to be a firefighter because that's actually something that I was told. A negative impact, right? See, I had leaders in my life, but were they good leaders or were they bad leaders? The ones that were giving me the negative feedback were the ones who were causing me to lead my life negatively, but it was still up in here. I had to train my brain to seek the positivity. Fast forward several years, I'm having a great career as a firefighter. I have my son, I'm a dad. Things seem to be going great. And then I also decided to make the decision to go back to school. Now, it'd been almost 10 years since I'd gone to school. And keep in mind, not the best student, to say the least, in school, in high school, and even in junior college. I screwed around a lot, to say the least, and didn't care about grades because I didn't think I was worthy. I didn't trust myself enough to want to even try to do the work because I didn't think I'd be good enough. But I did decide to go back. And when I got there, one, I found some passion and purpose. That's a little bit of key. I found some passion and purpose. I found some worth in the work that I was doing and what I was studying. Now, when I was there, when I decided to go back, I met with the advisor. And because I'd connected with this advisor through the campus ministries group, he thought I was there to go down the pastoral theology program. And I told him no, that wasn't why I was in the office, excuse me. And he said, well, then, Chris, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a fireman. No one asks me that anymore. He goes, okay, that doesn't help where we're going today, Chris. What do you want to do? And I said, you know what? I just want to help people. I want to lead them. I want to guide them. I want to strengthen them. I want them to be better than me. He goes, okay, I think I know who I want you to talk to. I said, all right, let's go. So we get on the hall and he takes me to the psychology office. And I meet with the advisor there and have a great discussion. The next thing you know, I'm a full-time, full-fledged student. And I get through the first year, get to the next year. And I'm rocking it. My grades, straight A's. I'd only ever said that one other time in my life. I had straight A's and I was having a blast. I was even willing to go read. I didn't like reading at the time because I was leading my life and also getting to see myself lead others. However, during my second year, I had been elected the president of the psychology club. And we always had this big kickoff barbecue. And right before we got there, I had been sent a message that said, hey, FYI, there's like 8 other clubs meeting today. This club's having pizza. That club's having Chipotle. And I don't know about you, but you say pizza or Chipotle to a bunch of college students, that's where they're going. And we were having hamburgers and hot dogs, which they'll show up for that too. But that's not where the negative, or as I come to call myself at the time, the professional pessimist, was going. And I walked around while people were setting things, and I just kept going, kind of pointless to put these chairs out. It's kind of pointless to put these tables out. No one's going to show up. And they're like, why? I was like, well, Chipotle, pizza, donuts, whatever else there was. And they sat back and they were like, oh, okay. So the next thing you know, they were slow moving. And I walked over to the grill where the head professor was, the gentleman I met the year before. And he looked at me, he goes, why aren't things getting done? And I looked at him, I said, well, it's kind of pointless. No one's going to show up. With spatula in hand, he looks at me and he goes, you have to be, in 32 years of teaching college, the most pessimistic person I have ever met in my life. I mean, it's like he took that spatula and just stuck it right in my heart. It's like, no, I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. I smile more. I'm happier. And I sat there and I thought about it. I thought, well, maybe the psychology professor is telling the truth. And then I looked over at the very people that I was to be leading. None of them were getting anything done. None of them cared about being there. I had brought the worth of the group down so far that no one even wanted to do the simple job of putting up chairs. And I thought, well, I got to rally the troops. We got to get motivated, right, Mark? So I went over to that group. I said, hey, guys, come here. Like what? I said, first and foremost, I have to admit I made a mistake, because leaders are willing to do that. I said, I messed up. They said, why is that? I said, I got so negative, you guys aren't even wanting to do a simple task of putting chairs out. That's not what's going to happen. We're going to have plenty of people here. I messed up. Let's get to work. Now, it's paraphrased, of course, but long story short, into that, we actually set a record for attendance that night. And Bill comes over to me, Professor Bill. Still had the spatula in his hand, by the way. And he points it at me. He goes, told you so, negative. You're right. I still had some work to do. But it took that leader. And yes, again, he held a position as teacher and professor. But he took a moment to invest in me, just to lead me. It wasn't just because he was my teacher. It was because he wanted to see an actual, authentic, and vulnerable change within me, because he saw something in me that could make me better. And so as I'm going along in this journey we call life, and these things that I'm working to make myself better on, I started to train my brain to seek more positivity, to seek more opportunities to help and guide people and strengthen them and make them better, which in turn made me better. Now, I made mention about being a firefighter. Carol had said that during my introduction. I only made it 14 years. I am what self-titled is early retired. Now, people ask me why. Well, the reason why, simply put, is God, knees, and back. At the time, my daughter, who just turned 6, was 2 years old, and I went to pick her up, and my back went out to the point I couldn't even tie my shoes anymore. And all the negativity of you can't even be a firefighter came rolling through my brain. All that negative leading, that professional pessimist, started coming back. And I had to be able to block that. I had to be able to get past that. And it was a struggle, to say the least, an absolute struggle. And as I was going through all this and making the changes and leaving the job and recognizing that life was going to look completely different, I started seeking what could I be doing. Well, at the time, prior to leaving, was creating my company, my leadership company. And I have to say, apparently, God wanted me to run it full time, because right as we were getting ready to launch was when I decided to leave. And that was tough. And people always ask me, what do you miss most? What do you miss most about being a firefighter? And of course, the first answer is the way we help people. And as I said, that's one of my big mantras in life, is helping others. Clearly something firefighters do and are supposed to do. But I wasn't able to do that anymore. So I had to think about it, and I thought about it. And yeah, driving the trucks, it's kind of neat. Putting out the fires, yeah, of course, that was our job. But I really thought about it. It's the dinner table. And people always, oh yeah, I've always heard firefighters are good cooks. You guys eat well. That's no lie. I ate some good food at the fire station. But that's not it. The table is where we would come together when we needed to talk. We needed to help one another. We needed to strengthen one another. We need to lead each other. Rank, title, and position, for the most part, pending the discussion, out the door. The dinner table is where we would go to solve all the world's problems. Now, clearly we didn't solve them all, because the world still got problems, right? But it was where we would have a support structure that had an open format to be able to talk. Now, keep in mind, I'd never recognized how important the table was to me, even thinking all the way back to that Scoutmaster. We were sitting on a literal table having these very conversations, and I missed being at the table. And so as I think about all the things that are going on in the world, as I think about being a leader and being able to set aside, even just for a little while, rank, title, and position, and just connect with one another. I tell everybody this, whether you're leading at home, or you're leading at a church, or an organization, or a club, or a networking group, or at work, come to the table. Come to the table. Listen to one another. Actively listen. Don't just listen to respond. Listen to understand. Leaders are encouragers. Encourage one another. Build one another up. Impress your knowledge upon somebody, if that's what's needed. Leaders are goal setters. Help each other set goals with one another. Leaders are motivators. It's the very skills and abilities that we've been given that we must express through the life and these experiences that we've been given, that we've been given to others to help them along. But also being open, listening, seeing, believing the other things that are impressed upon us. So going from needing to listen to others as well as trying to help others and trying to clear all these different things up, I went from being a professional easy for me to say, professional pessimist to an opportunistic optimist. I smile more now than I ever have before. And if I mess up the exact number, I apologize. But I have to tell you something here. Leaders are kind. That's one of the big ones I tell everybody. You got to be kind. You got to be willing to want to set aside your own things for a while and help one another out. So leaders are kind. Well, one of the best ways to express kindness in a world that needs it is to smile more. Do you know it takes approximately 56 muscles to frown? It only takes 14 to smile. We need to be more kind to one another. We need to be more open with one another, more authentic, more vulnerable with one another. Be willing to have these talks that bridge the different gaps that we may all be experiencing in our lives, in our organizations. If it is something specific to a promoted rank or title that needs to be addressed, then go address it. Go have that conversation. Have an open door policy. I've seen too many managers say, I have an open door policy, and then literally walks right by everybody and shuts the door. And it doesn't open again until they have to come out. If it's at home, have an open door policy. Come to the dinner table. Come to the table and have those conversations. If it's with a neighbor, have these conversations. And some of them may not have to go real deep, but at least be talking and conversing with one another. We have technology now. How many years ago would this guy in Kansas be speaking on an international stage with so many amazing people? Carol, so looking forward to hearing you talk next. But we've got to be willing to have these conversations. And what it takes is someone to be willing to step up and step out of their comfort zone, much like those other leaders did for me, and lead me and say, hey, let's talk. Let's work this out. How can I help you? But then you've got to be willing to be open to that change that's going to lead you to a better, more successful, greater life. It's the very things that we have been called to do. And had those leaders, and I've had so many others too, by the way, so many others, not stepped up and said those things to me that impacted my life positively and motivated me and inspired me to do and be better, I would still be stuck. Mark said swamp, I say muck and mire. I'd still be stuck trudging through that stuff. So as a life coach, and even as a leadership coach, like I said, it's life and leadership and life. I help you train your brain for positivity, the simplest of things. I help you set your mindset to your calling. What are you called to do? Have you asked yourself that question? Maybe you need to ask other people that question. That's a fun one, by the way. Blocking those can'ts in life, those things that either someone else or you said, I can't do that. Well, can't never did. Can't never did anything for anybody. Let's just be real about that. And then breaking through your barriers. Set up your next steps for your greatness. There's nothing wrong with living in your greatness. Nothing wrong with that at all. And then create and set your take action battle plan. One more quick story to that into taking action. I was a very unforgiving person for a long time because of the scars that I had. And it was another leader who stepped into my life and said, you know what, you are doing a good job of forgiving other people and saying that out loud. My question to you is, have you forgiven yourself in any of that? That was a barrier breakthrough that I had to have. And the way that I got through that was I took action on a battle plan. I didn't just say, I'm going to forgive. I started doing it. I didn't just say I was going to be a firefighter. I did it. I didn't just say I'm going to go back to school. I did it. I didn't just say I'm going to be a leadership coach and a speaker. I did it. Turn your can'ts into I will. Turn the I will into I did. So you can say, I did it. And then continually get mentoring accountability so you can guide yourself and have others help guide you. And so you can guide other people to reach beyond what the stars can give you. Everybody, make every day great. You deserve to do that. Have your best day ever, every single day. Remember, can't never did. God bless us all. That's my time. Thank you so much.
Oh, Chris. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that. It'll be great. You know, all the leader definitions, if you've got time to put in the chat. Absolutely.
That will be a book. That will be a book that's forthcoming because there's actually
Awesome.
52 of them. There's 52 of them. So yeah, so thank you for that. But yeah, that's a book that's forthcoming. So I will be putting my contact information in the chat, by the way. Though. So thank you, Carol.
Excellent. Oh my goodness. Love it. Thank you. There was something else I was going to say. I can't remember what it was now. And yes, smiling is great medicine. So, and now on to our next and final speaker for the evening, who is Carol Metz-Murray. Carol is a spiritual entrepreneur, naked narrative leadership coach, integrative development practitioner, mentor, change agent, speaker, and 5 times collaborative international book best-selling author. She teaches overwhelmed thought and business leaders a 5-step process to do what it takes to be a naked leader. Not literally, I hope. understand their why, discover their voice, stand up, speak up, unlock their full potential, and embrace shift when it happens. Carol's life experiences ignited the change she wants to see in the world. Put my teeth back in, envisioning a global shift in feminine radiance. When women and men truly understand their internal strength, divine feminine energy and divine masculine energy, the earth will expand and evolve into the love creation it is. Ooh, want to hear more, Carol? Over to you.
Thank you, Carol. And also thank you, Ritu, as well as Zena and Mark and Chris. So as I listened to Chris, it was, this is really, really like I'm hearing me speak. However, now it's Carol, not Chris. And yes, a qualifier right at the beginning. I am the leader of the Naked Leadership Institute. The qualifier is, please keep your clothes on. This is not about taking your clothes off at all. Where we are in the world today, do you feel that there are more questions floating in your life than there are answers? And have you been looking for others to solve those answers, expecting someone to come and save you? Well, as we've heard today or this evening, really, it's all up to you to save you. Building your trust, building your motivation, and truly becoming that leader. And hence, Naked Leadership. It's about becoming the leader within, choosing to be the authentic, vulnerable, and accountable you. Because no one else has those gifts that you have within you to be that leader. It's quite the journey, and yet it is a wonderful, wonderful experience of life. Because life happens for us, not to us. And just before I got on today's call, I came across a saying that I thought, wow, this has so much impact. And that one was that life will bully you until you take a stand. So in essence, in being the leader in your own life, when will you take a stand? And I had that personal experience of I needed to take a stand. I was living a life that I thought was my dream life. And yet, inwardly, I knew that I was a demonstration of overwhelm, stress, and more stress. I was a workaholic. I was a perfectionist. And what else wasn't I? I had fled my home in Manitoba to move all the way to the Yukon in Canada because I was fleeing a violence-filled marriage. And the breaking point there, after suffering childhood traumas and adult traumas, was the day that I had to use my words to talk someone else out of me and him becoming statistics. And I knew it was time to get out of the situation. So with my daughter in hand, we relocated to the Yukon. That was my dream job. Wow. There I was as a city manager helping people, and I had been in service from the time I was 5 when my dad began to teach me how to be a farm entrepreneur. At age 11, I was managing the farm when my parents and siblings took off for the weekend. And that management meant managing all the animals and milking the cows and making sure that the herds of cattle were safe. So in essence, leadership has always been a part of who I am. But that one day, back in the Yukon in the mid-90s, I was to have an experience that would change my life forever. When I arrived in the Yukon, I had a dream unfold. I was invited by the government of the Yukon to participate in its first ever master's program through the University of Juneau in Southeast Alaska. The University of Southeast Alaska in Juneau. That meant I needed to drive to Whitehorse every weekend or every second weekend. That was a 1,000-kilometer trip, round trip, come winter, come summer. And really, there's only 2 seasons in the Yukon. And I did that because I wanted to get my master's degree. It was a dream that I'd had for a good number of years. And I drove that road until the very last trip, on the very last course that I was taking to complete my master's before writing my thesis. I got on the road a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. And I drove. I guess I drove. I'm not sure. I came out of a situation where I didn't know where I was. Quite frankly, I didn't even know who I was. There I was sitting in this car, driving down this highway. I didn't even know what highway I was on. Panicked, petrified. Oh, you can't imagine. Now, I had driven that road many times. Finally, I recognized landmarks, piles of stones, and I began to realize where I was. When I got to Whitehorse, an absolute mess, stressed to the nines, I called my doctor and explained to her what had happened. And she said to me, well, Carol, you've been driving consciously unconscious because you have been under a tremendous amount of stress all your life, quite frankly, and you have created this. Your body cannot handle what you have put it through to this point. So either you deal with it or I'll make you deal with it. That was all I needed to hear. Because you see, I didn't like hospitals. Wasn't so crazy about doctors either. But I knew at that moment that I needed to change my life. What good would have I been if the car had gone off the road? And the roads in the Yukon are not straight like they are on the Canadian prairies. You're driving around mountains, and the ditches aren't 2 feet, they're cavernous. And there I was that day in the midst of a major burnout. I had burnt my body out so badly, and not only my body, but I'd also burnt my mind out, and my heart, and my brain. It was like a ripe tomato that gets thrown against the wall, and it just goes splat. But it was then, that day, that I made a decision to begin to turn my life around. And that was the beginning of Naked Leadership. Because for me, as I've said earlier, it's choosing to be the authentic leader in your own life. What a journey of having to have a look at me. From the time I was a little girl and come to terms with the fear and anxiety that I felt, was forgiving myself for all those feelings that I had put inside of me and made myself believe that I wasn't good enough. I forgave the individual who had sexually assaulted me as a child and a teenager. And most of all, I began to forgive myself. Because without forgiving myself, there was no way that I was going to be able to grow into who I truly, truly was. Because leadership begins within. It really is about what we create inside. We manifest and inspire and motivate on the outside. Our life on the outside is a demonstration of who we are on the inside. My journey of self-discovery took me from being a city manager into consulting, into coaching, which really and truly is my passion and my life calling, into the world of domestic violence. And when I stepped into the world of leading in domestic violence, I understood why I walked the journey that I walked, that the experiences that I lived, both as a child and as an adult in a violence-filled marriage, were really part and parcel of the experiences to help me become the authentic me. And it also gave me the gift of seeing people's potential and really learning to be there for them, being that active individual, actively listening. And it's more than actively listening. It's radical listening where you really turn off your mind to be present for the other individual, or perhaps the group that you're working with. And as I moved forward in discovering who I was, one of the big things that came forward for me, and one of the basic element in Naked Leadership, is coming from that heart-centered place. And for me, it was learning to open my heart, not only to me, but to Source or God or universe, whatever you may call it. Because I certainly know that I had somebody driving with me that day that I was driving consciously unconscious. But as we begin to open up our hearts and find that courage that rests for me beside my heart, because the root word of courage is heart, and exercise that courage muscle so it becomes like an ab muscle. It's strong, and it takes fear and it puts it at the back of the bus. The other things that when I work with clients, is helping them to take off their masks and melt their glass barriers that keeps them stuck in where they are. For example, I worked with a client who came to me, and each time she came to me, she had one excuse after another about why her life wasn't moving forward. And I sat and I listened and I listened. And then the words came up for me. And I looked at this client and I said, when are you going to stop running? And as soon as those words were out, there came the tears. And I sat holding space for this client. When the tears were done, I also looked at her and I said, what is it that you wear on your feet? She said, I always wear runners. I said, well, what about putting on a pair of walking shoes? That day, the client left. They enrolled in school to upgrade their skills. They enrolled in counseling to be able to work towards getting custody, joint custody of their children. And yes, they went out and bought a pair of walking shoes. Their heart had opened and the masks had started to come off. And those masks come off. It's like peeling an onion. And the glass barriers, they too will melt step by step as you build your courage. Step into trusting yourself and others. And the biggest thing that I have learned as I move forward to serve others, whether it be executives or those in leadership and or teams, is it's critical, absolutely critical to each and every one of us that we put ourselves first in our lives. First. Selfish, you say? It could be. But you know what? If I don't put myself first in my life and I don't serve me and my heart, how am I to be there to serve you? And I am about service to self and service to others. And just picking up on what Chris had mentioned way back when, I was once a scout leader, serving others. And truly, it is so important to serve yourself. So in the world of serving women and serving men, and in the world of domestic violence, what I have embarked on now is actually looking at shifting boxes, putting sides down on boxes to begin to look at services for men who are dealing with domestic violence, and also looking for services that really don't exist across Canada for men who have chosen to use abuse in their life. And domestic violence is gender neutral. What is it that we can do for both women and men to ensure that our children are safe? And as we move forward, my ask to all of you is open up your courage door and find out where it sits with you. And I will end with the word fire to give you something to think about as you build the fire in your courage. F stands for fearless. I is insights. Trust your insights. Be motivated by your insights. R is reimagine. Just reimagine who you are as you grow every day, as you serve others, and first and foremost, as you serve yourself. And E stands for everything and everybody. Be who you were meant to be. Over to you, Carol.
Hey, you know what? If I had What an amazing, 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 amazing evening. People who don't attend these events don't know what they are missing. Oh my goodness. Carol, I felt every word and your passion for doing what you do. And for all our speakers, for you, Carol, for Zena, for Chris, for Mark, pretend this is a mic. And I've just dropped the mic. You have been amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The nuggets that you have shared, each one of you, is priceless. Thank you. And there was a book that I read many years ago, and I can't remember the author. It was called The Servant Leader. And I actually gave that book to, I was working for Charles Schwab in the UK at the time, and I gave that book to my manager because she epitomized everything. You know, that open door you talked about, Chris, she epitomized that. She was such an encourager. She was all heart. So, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now open. Use and soak up the nuggets that came from our speakers tonight. Use this opportunity to find out more. Ask your questions. Okay, thank you. You can unmute your mics or use the reaction by raising your hand. Carol and the other speakers, do look in the chat if you haven't already looked, just to see the comments for each of your talks.
I had a question come up on the chat actually from Ranjit Bhaya. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. Ranjit had asked, is it only for mums as some women have health reasons and don't have children? So Ranjit, just to answer your question, I have niched down to coach mums. That doesn't mean I exclude anybody. However, my expertise lies in coaching mums. As somebody who has had fertility issues myself, what I don't want to do is invite non-mums to the platform just in case it's triggering when I do talk about things that are very relative to mums. So just have that in mind. But if it's to do with business strategy, do you just need some help, you want to ask questions, please do connect with me. Don't feel like you can't connect with me if you're not a mum, or if whoever it is that you're referring to is not a mum, but they could do with my help. I think we're here for a purpose. Like a lot of the speakers have said, we have a purpose in this world, and I'm here to give wherever I can. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, don't be shy.
I'm here. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please do, Naresh.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I'm sorry I joined a bit late, and I'm listening to both of the speakers. I haven't missed much then, have I? Really, it was brilliant. It was really good. I really needed that. So I'm so happy that I joined today. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being here, Naresh.
Yes, also Naresh, because it was being streamed live on Facebook, you should be able to grab the whole thing.
Okay, that's fine. Who did I miss in the beginning then?
Zena.
Oh, sorry, Zena.
That's okay, Naresh. I will forgive you on this occasion.
My husband's fault, he came late from work.
No worries at all. Yeah, feel free to catch
dinner
up when you can.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I did actually. It was really knowledgeable and really, learned a lot. There's a lot of spiritual side to everything as well, and I'm just observing it at the moment. There was a lot to take in.
Just going to answer, Ranjit has asked, how did you all start as speakers? My my journey as a speaker started at a networking event. I just put myself forward, didn't know really what I was doing, and just learned from there. I think a lot of things in life, you just have to put yourself forward and see what happens, learn from it, and then do it again, and hopefully get better the next time. So I think that's one of the lessons we all learn, is that if we wait for the moment when it's perfectly and we're ready, that probably will never come. So we just got to sometimes just step forward and just go for it.
I would love to add to that, actually, Mark. Yeah, it's about embracing it and feeling the fear and just going for it anyway. When you say how did I start as a speaker? I mean, I started speaking probably at the age of 1.5, 2. in all seriousness, you ask a child to speak about something that they're truly passionate about, you won't be able to stop them. What stops us is the growing fear as we grow into our adulthood, and we put all these things into our brains as to what we can't do, and we keep telling ourselves, how am I? It's like, what is it yourself, Chris, that mentioned, am I worthy? Why are you not worthy? What you have to say has value. Add that value. There's somebody out there looking to hear what you have to give. They need to hear you. You're here for a purpose. Maybe you need to share that. If I was to ask my 4-year-old to talk about cars or dinosaurs, let me tell you, you'd be here till tomorrow. Okay, there is no fear there. The fear grows in us as we grow up. So it's about unlearning more than actually learning to become a speaker. It's about unlearning all the bad habits that we pick up on the way.
For me, actually speaking is one of my gifts. We all are here with specific gifts. That's what makes us unique. I was in my first speaking contest at the age of 11. And so in essence, I've been speaking all my life. Other people look at public speaking as a fear greater than death. For me, I just love speaking. It's one of the ways that I can serve. It's one of the ways I can touch other people's hearts. So I encourage everyone is use your voice. Use your voice. That's why we have it. Is really, we're not in service to others if we are not using our voice. So it's not about being polished and perfect. It's about sharing what's in your heart.
Can I just ask Carol that question when she said use your voice? Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. When you said use your voice, I actually used to talk a lot, and I still do talk a lot. I blank out, and I'm forgetting things because 2 years ago I had a minor stroke, and I lost a lot of ability where finding the right words to say, and I lost my voice through that because I couldn't communicate with anybody, and that made me really miserable and sad and depressed. Anxiety kicked in and everything. But then I joined groups to talk, and there was a lady who rings me every week, and she says to me, how are you? That's all it took, like, how are you? What are you doing today? That was it. And then I met Ritu, and I just started to talk again, and I got my voice back. Sort of, it's not perfect, but I've got my voice back. And it was like trauma hit me really badly 2 years ago. And then another trauma hit me last year. I'm fighting it. I'm still fighting it. I'm going through a lot, as Ritu knows. But like I said, I'm not giving up. I'm thinking positive. And I want my voice back. And that's my ambition. But I wish I could help people with my voice as well, Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it sounds to me.
Did that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It sounds to me like you have found your voice again. You're reclaiming your voice.
Yeah.
You're bringing it out, And there are opportunities there to use your voice to serve others. You're working through traumas, and yay, thank you. I mean, for being open to working through traumas, and everybody's traumas impact everybody individually. So thank you for taking those steps to bring your voice back, giving yourself permission to bring your voice back, because obviously you've done that.
It's really hard because I'm trying to express myself and I can't do it at the moment.
Well, there's even a little bit of a mindset shift in that. Is from the perspective, what I have learned along the way is when we speak, who is the first person that hears the words that I am saying?
It's yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when we speak, when we use negatives, the brain hears that, and then there's nothing. So shift your words to positives. Is maybe at this moment, or I am speaking, I am progressing. It's also a way of building your inner mindset to help you with that. One of the ways, and that helped me years back when I burnt out, I was a mess. I was a mess. I had been a speaker since age 11. When I stood back up on stage, I had no idea I was doing this, but I was swaying like the wind was blowing. I was just going back and forth like this. I had no idea I was doing that. So what helped me was I joined Toastmasters. And that was a way of me being with people, relearning to speak and present, and having other people's support. So Gina and Mark and Chris, what are your thoughts?
I love what you've said, and I love that you use the words reclaiming your voice, because that's what I was touching on. We all have a voice. It's just about reclaiming that and owning that, and knowing that what you have to say is so super important, and there's somebody out there who needs to hear. I mean, just the fact that you had lost your voice and you've got this far, that is a journey in itself.
Yeah,
Some people will be at that stage of still having lost it and not knowing how to reclaim. Maybe your journey to get to where you're at right now, even though you want to progress from this point forward, even to get to where you are now, they will see that as inspirational for sure. There will be some people out there who are waiting to listen to your story and how you've got there.
Yeah, thank you.
What you missed from what I'd said before is part of my life that I reflected on and shared with the platform today was that after I was married, I was very much like culturally conditioned, and my in-laws had tried to put me into a box, and it really diminished me, and I did lose my voice. I would have anxiety attacks, and if anybody met me now, it certainly is not who I am. Like, I'm not an anxious person. I'm not all these negative things that I was feeling and embracing at that time. What I really loved about what you said and what I had to start doing myself, just as Carol said, is changing the way I communicated to myself so that I could grow through that. And the words that you said before Carol answered your question is that I'm not, you said something like
she said I'm not perfect. I picked on that. Yeah, she said I'm not perfect.
She said I'm not perfect, but she says I'm not able to.
I'm not the person. Did I say I'm not the person that I used to be?
No, you said something about speaking, but what you ended with, you said, "Oh, I'm not that great at speaking."
No,
at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that at the moment is so powerful, because you know that there's growth there to achieve, and you know you will go and get that. You're still on a learning journey, so it's forgiving yourself for all the stuff that has happened. It's forgiveness from within, but also acceptance of what is yet to be. So yeah, you're on the right path. And all these
Well,
things
to be honest, having known Naresh for some time, I think she's very good at expressing herself. It's probably what she's saying to herself negatively that's getting in the way. As a matter of fact, she's very good at expressing herself. Anytime we've had a conversation, I have got exactly what she's tried to convey, and very impactfully as well.
Yeah.
So Naresh, there you are.
Thank you. It's just that, because all my life, from a young age, I've been working very hard. I had a business. I've been a business lady. I've been a carer for parents, brought up children, educated them through everything, and got grandchildren and everything. But I worked very hard, and coming back from a teaching background, from my mum, my dad was a teacher, my granddad was a headmaster. So I have got a bit of teaching background, a bit of nursing background as well. But I felt I just became a cabbage when I had this trauma came onto me. I'm happily married and got a lovely husband, very caring. But like I said, this happened to me. It's like I'm being reborn again, and I'm still finding my steps again. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm doing now.
Can I?
Wow.
Sorry, things keep popping up on my screen. Can I, Naresh?
Carol?
I'm getting emotional because we all have a story, and your journey is a story. And at the stage that you are at, there are so many people you will be able to help who has been through strokes and are finding it hard. Never underestimate the experience you have been through, that you could share and inspire and give hope to others, because you may be further along than someone who's recently had a stroke.
Yeah, there is a couple of conditions I've got, which I'm still fighting it, and I haven't really come out to really express myself about it. But I will one day. I will one day. Yeah, I'm still fighting that.
What Carol said about lived experiences, they're totally priceless. Each one of our wonderful speakers tonight have brought in the wealth of wisdom through their lived experiences. And this reminds me of Rumi's quote that goes, keep breaking your heart. You have to keep breaking your heart until light enters. Yeah. And from personal experience as well, Naresh, and adding to what Ranjit has asked before, when we share our own story, when we start speaking about it, there are a few things that happen. One, when you listen to your story time and again, you heal. Somehow, that's total acceptance that, okay, I've gone through this and it's okay. I have actually gone through this and come out the other end now. I'm not that story. I'm more than that. And you heal somehow by sharing it with others. When you see what good it's doing to other people, like, what Carol shared tonight, for instance, totally amazing, wonderful, what Chris has shared with us, what Mark has, with Zine. Each one of them have given us so much to think about and take away with us. So absolutely, I think speaking publicly, sharing your story openly, and I think I became empowered truly when I accepted everything that was and said, hey ho, these tags of guilt and shame and being a misfit and being inappropriate or whatever it was that I had gathered on the way, they started shedding away. So anybody who's willing to share their story, I think they're doing themselves a huge favor first, and then the rest of the world. So please do that.
I will open up, and I will have a voice soon.
You do already.
Awesome. Oh, what an amazing evening. And Ritu, I hand over to you.
what's there to say, Carol, but a big thank you to all our wonderful speakers. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time to us tonight and sharing your very meaningful and very valuable insights with us. Thank you so much. And everybody else who joined us tonight, do keep in touch. Please give us a like, share, or follow, whatever. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we're on YouTube as well. We have a new YouTube channel where all these recordings are going to go. So yeah, please do that. And if nothing else, try and keep in touch. Keep doing the great work you guys are doing. Carol, you want to say something?
May I share one last thing with everyone?
Please. Please.
And what I want to share is the word hug. Do you know what the word hug stands for, or hugs? And I'm sending each and every one of you that is on the call, my co-speakers, and Carol, and you, Ritu. Hug is help you grow. Hugs is help us grow spiritually.
Wow.
So when I am sending a hug to each and every one of you, if I was there, I would, yes.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you. Right, guys, have a lovely day.
Thank
evening,
you.
Rest of
Thank
the day.
you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I really
Bye-bye.
enjoyed it.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was lovely.